Hey, everybody, it's John Alapic. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the latest edition of the Live Cut. Premise of this series is to talk about live albums that don't get enough love or recognition. Before we talk about the album today, let me introduce you to my distinguished guest. You no doubt know him for his fantastic YouTube music channel called Rock Daydream Nation, as well as his appearances on a plethora of YouTube music discussion channels such as the Contrarians, and of course, my channel here. And this is his third appearance on my channel. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to talk to my friend Peter Kerr from Sydney, Australia. Hello, Peter. It's great to see you.
Hello, John, and thank you for the invite. Always great to chat music with you on a bright and sunny Saturday morning
There you go.
at the
Or
pub.
sunny Friday night here in the good old USA, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so we were going to have actually, I'll go into that when we talk about what album we're going to be doing today. This is INXS with their first and their only official live album,
Yes,
Live
yes.
Baby Live or Live Baby Live. However,
Yeah, actually, there have been subsequent official ones, but their first official one.
very good. This
Yeah.
was recorded in a plethora of cities, and there is the one that came out later that came from Wembley Stadium. That was
Yes.
released later on Blu-ray and DVD, and that features the whole
Mm,
concert.
the whole concert. So I'll talk to this, but you talk to that. I'll talk to this,
Surely.
and yeah, that'll give I think, a really good overview of the performance, I guess.
Absolutely. This was released on November 4, 1991 on Atlantic Records in North America. I believe it would have came out on WEA Records in Australia and Mercury Records in Europe. This was recorded when INXS were at their peak as a commercial force. This hit platinum in the United States, although it only hit number 72 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts. It did go platinum in Australia. It hit number 3, and it hit number 8 in the United Kingdom. This was recorded on what would be the album they'd be promoting would be X. And this album, this original album released in 91, was released in a plethora of cities. This was recorded in Paris, New York, Toronto, Chicago, London, Dublin, Glasgow, Rio de Janeiro, Montreal, Spain, Switzerland, Melbourne, Sydney, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Las Vegas, Nevada. So before we get into the album, actually, let me tell you who played on it. INXS were the incomparable Michael Hutchence on lead vocals. Rest in peace, Michael. We have the brothers Ferris, Andrew on keyboards, guitars, and backing vocals, Tim on guitars and backing vocals, and John on drums and backing vocals. We have Gary Beers on bass and backing vocals, and Kirk Pengilly on guitar, saxophone, and backing vocals. So, Peter, what was your first experience with INXS's music? I'm really interested since you live in Sydney, and INXS were an Australian band, and they made it huge there before they conquered the world.
1979, my friend. They did a video clip on a kids show called Simon Townsend's Wonderworld.
Oh,
And my colleague from Brisbane, Daniel Bicycle Legs, we talk about this a bit. He watched that show as well, and yeah, they did a video clip, and there was a certain kinetic energy about him. You know, your eyes are on the front man, and you know, I started to notice a lot of their work on some of the music video shows of the day. Countdown, Sounds. People that are in Australia would be familiar with that, and look, I've followed their career from day one. I've got all their albums. I know it upside, downside, left, right, and they're one of my favorite Australian bands. And yeah, they were on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nomination. Didn't get it this year. Next year, I think, is the one where they'll get it, deservedly so. Yeah, basically, yeah, I love this band to bits. And but you know, the live album is a very fraught medium, isn't it? You know, there's a fine line between getting it and not getting it, and I guess we'll flush that out when we talk track by track in this album. Hey,
No doubt about it. Okay.
yeah,
My introduction to INXS would have been 1982 with the one thing of a Shabu Shuba. That was a top 30 hit here in the United States. It got played heavy on MTV. Her Don't Change then too. And Don't Change wasn't as big a hit. That was more of a song that you hear late night. They were big on both our pop radio stations here, most notably KRZ FM in Pittston, Pennsylvania, and our rock station, Rock 107 WEZX FM, Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of rock and roll. Interestingly, with INXS, some of their songs you'd hear on the pop radio, some of them you'd hear on rock. As time went on in their career, you'd hear them more on rock radio. This, like the ballads and such, you would hear them more on the pop stations. But, you know, middle school, high school, especially high school, we heard INXS all the time. You cannot avoid the Kick album from 87. That is a tour de force, in my opinion. Fantastic album. So we heard a lot of INXS probably through about 1992 or 93. So I never got to see them live. I wish I did, but yeah, they were a band that I always liked, but I didn't love. But as time has gone on, I think their music has endured like a fine wine. You mentioned nomination for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. They didn't get it. To me, they're a cinch Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band because they had
100%. Yeah,
they had such a great stretch, and maybe perhaps more of a singles band. But these singles are so infectious. Two of my favorite songs of a specific year are INXS songs. Don't Change and Never Tear Us Apart. They're probably my two favorite songs, period, by INXS. But I love
absolutely. And it was the sort of music that brought dance music to the masses, because when you cut down to the nitty gritty, their music is it's got a bit of an R&B element. There's a bit of a rhythm element. It's very dance rock, and it's rock music that you can shake your ass to.
No doubt.
And these were dance floor fillers. The Kick album, you know, in Australia, I think a lot of people got sick of it because you go to the local discotheque and, you know, What You Need would be played, Devil Inside, New Sensation. But it brings the girls to the dance floor, it brings the blokes to the dance floor. We loved it. And these songs are timeless. And what they do, they just do really, really well. So I think with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if Duran's in, INXS has got to be in as well.
Oh,
seriously.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer.
I agree. Then this album was produced by Mark Opitz and the band INXS. So, what do you think are the highlights of this album, Peter?
Look, let's talk about the album in regards to the sound. It's a big stadium sound. They're playing, so a lot of the songs are played in Wembley Arena, and the sound is booming. So it doesn't have that intimate concert feel of a live album. And a lot of the songs are changed because they're playing to that bigger audience. Not only are they playing to the people right in front that are, you know, dancing away, they've got to play to the rafters right at the back of the arena. Exactly. So that's something that I was in conflict in listening to it, because a lot of the songs are sped up. A lot of the arrangements are less spiky. a lot of the drumming is simplified and it's very kind of rhythmic. They've had to make some sonic alignments because they're not playing in halls or mid-sized stadiums or mid-sized concert halls. They're playing to the stadium and they've got to play to that. The next thing that you've got to get over is this is a visual album. You need to see the band live because that's part of the mix. Because Michael Hutchence is a very compelling front man. He's got the looks. He's a rock god. He's got the swagger. Part Jagger, part Morrison, part just him. He is INXS. He is the sex appeal to this band. Sorry, the guys, they're great musos, but let's face it, he's the guy that you put your eyes on. And the difficulty on this album is you're always thinking that you're hearing these crowd noises where the crowd are just amping it up or somebody's got a bugle, you know, and you feel like there's just something like you're missing out on something, and it's the visual side of it. So I've actually seen the live DVD of it, and it is really an experience. It's worth seeing on the surround sound. But when you listen to it on CD, you really have to listen to the sonics, to the songs, and it's not as good because the visual aspect is removed. And that makes some parts of this album a little bit of a challenge. But the highlights for me are simply the songs that I like best, because I think even with the way it's been mixed, even with the arrangements, there's such great songs, and a great song's a great song. So songs like Never Tear Us Apart, I think that's just chef's kiss.
Yes.
Love that song. I'm sure we'll talk about that more. Need You Tonight, they do that really well. Bitter Tears, New Sensation. Basically, a lot of the songs off Kick are chef's kiss, because
Yes.
you can see that they're well-seasoned musos. They've played this to death, you know. They conquered America with the Kick album, and they do it really well. So I think they're the highlights, the Kick songs. What about you, John? What do you think? What are the highlights for you?
Okay, so when I was looking on Setlist FM, I noticed that when they were doing this tour, it was heavy on Kick and heavy on X. They were doing nearly the whole album for both of those, and then just a few other tracks from their earlier albums. I do think that the songs from Kick are awesome. I love Guns in the Sky on here. Guns on the
Yeah,
Sky is wonderful on here. Mystify, where you have the crowd singing along with Michael, I think that is a wonderful highlight.
great interaction. Great interaction.
Absolutely. And I do like you when you listen to this album, you know, you could tell, okay, they were one of the biggest bands in the world at this point when you're listening to the call and response between Michael and the crowd, and they are singing along with a lot of these lyrics. I love the one thing that was my entry point into INXS, but I still love the version of it on here. I really love what would be the second single off of this album, and it should have been a single off of X, and that song is The Stairs. I think that is fantastic. As a matter of fact, we'll get into this a little bit. I think this should have been the first single off the album, because I think this is one of their finest tracks. It's just that there were 4 songs released as singles on X, but I think this should have definitely been one of them. Never Tear Us Apart, of course. It's a wonderful version on here. That's timeless, and that sax solo is to die for, and the vocal from Michael is wonderful, and the great call and response in the last chorus is excellent. The last song on here, but not on the tour, we're not at the shows most of the nights, is What You Need. And that sounds great on here as well, because they really stretched that one out, and you really hear Michael and his rapport with the crowd very, very well. So those are the highlights for me. A lot of it is Kick, but one thing I will get into later is a lot of missed opportunities on this album, as well as far.
Well, let's talk about it now. I think it's the elephant in the room. I think the song set could be knocked into better shape because
Yes.
you can't deny it. Kick and X sound very similar. And when you're listening to an album all the way through, it's a bit samey. I
Hmm.
hate to say it.
Yeah.
Now there are nuances and there are subtleties between the songs because a lot of the funk songs that they do have very particular specific nuances that you need a more intimate venue. Now, if you
Yes.
put it in a cavernous arena, it gets lost. The sound wafts in the air and you lose that. And when you're listening to an album, and in this case, it's a double album,
Hmm.
and you've got two albums that sound very similar, it's a bit samey. So I would have loved to have heard more things from the Swing. I
Yeah.
would have loved to have heard more from Shabu Shabar. I would have
Yes.
loved them to go on back and play some of their new wave punky stuff like Simple Simon. Just keep walking.
Mhm.
So I like the early era. And I think that should have been invested. Even there are some songs that they missed that they didn't play off the Listen Like Thieves album.
Yes.
Missed opportunities. So I guess they were just looking at what's selling. Now, Kick went gangbusters in the States. It hit number 3. It's 4, 5, 6 platinum. I haven't got the
Six.
stats, but it's very
Six.
high numbers. X didn't do as well, but X did gangbusters in the UK and went to number 1. So the UK actually caught the INXS vibe a little bit later. It was a bit delayed. So where they were in the States around X, it was going a little bit down. They were on the rise in Britain. So it was like that. So I guess they thought we got to play to what works. And it's those two albums. But from a fan that knows their whole work from start to finish, I just would have loved to heard more of that early era
No
and
doubt.
just a bit more variety.
Yes. And the thing with this album is we got a 63-minute, 16-track album here. In the CD age, I think you could have stretched this out. Now, for a live album, I say stretch it out. Studio album, not so much. Live album, definitely stretch it out. Why is there a studio single as the 5th track on this album, Shining Star, which is okay, but kind of mediocre by INXS standards? For me, you put the live version of the Stairs as the first thing. So, and it sounds really out of place when you're listening to a live album. And then you get to the 5th track, which would be the end of side 1 on record 1. If you're going to listen to vinyl back then, I don't know if this would have came out on a 63-minute vinyl in 1991. We're near the end of the vinyl era at that point. Of course, make a huge comeback later. And then you hear this fade out of this studio song on a live album. It sounds weird. It just, and that gets into another point of mine. You know that Michael has a ton of charisma and he's got a great voice. But I think when you're recording in all these different cities on this album, you lose that. You lose the cohesion.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
lose the cohesion because they're just bouncing into one song after another more often than not.
Yeah. Whereas this one, you've got
Mm-hmm.
the one show, which I've been listening to very studiously over the last couple of weeks, but it still has the same problems as what I've just said before. The song list is a bit samey.
Okay, now that night at Wembley, then this gets stuck in my craw. Do we at least get "Don't Change" on there? We don't get "Don't Change" here. We don't get "Original Sin" here. "Original Sin," I mean, I know it wasn't a big hit in the States.
Original Sin is played on this album, but it's sped up.
Oh,
And
okay, gotcha.
I don't like that. And there's this ongoing argument about live albums and how bands, especially in the 80s and 90s, sped up their songs. A lot of folk don't like it. I'm sort of, it just depends on the song. I don't like this version. They also do I Send a Message, and I Send a Message was really punchy,
Yes.
and it was right in the middle of new wave and synth pop, and you had these really punchy synth sounds, syncopated electronic drums, but they play it super fast, and it's a little bit too rocky. So yeah, they have a stab at some of the early material off the swing, but it just loses in translation. They are really geared to arena rock, and they're talking kick and they're talking X.
And X, I thought, was even more like dance rock at that point. I thought INXS was actually a harder rocking album than that one. But yes, their sound had changed. And, it led to great sales. But if you think about how well did those songs endure, some of them, the hits, I thought endured quite well. And I do love the Kick album. But I think when you go into X, I don't know if it's that is strong all the way through, and then even albums after this. Although Welcome to Wherever You Are, I think was pretty cool because they tried a lot of different things. Another thing I noticed on this album, I don't know if this comes off on that Live at Wembley. You have a couple songs on here where at the end you got some backstage chatter, which is weird because it's like they're trying to do a documentary. It's like they're trying to do a U2 rattle and hum thing. And they do that at the end of Mediate, and they do it at the end of Suicide Blonde. And I think that really breaks up the momentum as well. I'm gathering that isn't on the Wembley Stadium show.
Yeah, look, it's not, but there is a little bit of a stage banter in regards to, I'm in London, and
Okay.
it's nothing special. He's not doing anything that's Elvis Presley like in regards
Right.
to his banter and interaction by the audience. But you can see that they are they're, I don't know, they know that this is a very special occasion, because this is a band that started in the pubs in 1979, tread the boards up and down the coast, and then they just kept on building and building and building. And they actually got a bit of an apprenticeship. They had a bit of a dress rehearsal for the Wembley Arena because they supported Queen
Oh,
on one of their last big tours of Europe and the UK, and actually supported Queen on, I think, 2 concerts at Wembley Arena, not Wembley Arena, but the Wembley Stadium.
yes.
So that would have given them a sense of, what's under my feet, the crowd, maybe at the side of the stage, see how Freddie works the audience. They would have had that experience. And that was a good little bit of a dress rehearsal for, headlining in their own right. Pretty big news for an Aussie band that started in a pub to play a 90,000 stadium, Wembley. Wembley's like it's up there with Madison Square Gardens. There's a kind of mythical
Right.
status about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. No doubt about it. The performances on here, having said what we've said, I still think the performances on here are pretty strong. Usually sticking to the originals. They're not stretching out too much, but
Yeah.
they're
Sometimes they maybe a 3-minute song goes to four to 4:50. They might stretch it out a little bit, but to me, INXS are a lot of their songs have an idea, and it's a feel, it's a groove, and it might only have 3 or 4 notes, and they'll stretch it out. And it's like James Brown. You get in the groove. If the audience is dancing, keep it going. So when you see the concert, have you seen the concert
I have
DVD? If you have, if you haven't, do yourself a favor and see it. They're jumping up and down, and they're really in the groove. And if you get the first 5 rows jumping up and down, it's infectious. It's like a Mexican wave, and the rest, you basically got the audience to work with you, and that's what they do. And a lot of these songs are geared to you to do that. You know, jump up and down and dance. And if there's a groove, they'll stretch it out a little bit. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of these songs.
Definitely. What do you think of some of these other songs on here, like By My Side, which is a ballad off of X? I think that works very well. Burn for You from The Swing. I think that works as well. Also, what do you think of some of those deeper cuts on there?
Light by My Side. That was a kind of a radio hit over here. I think it might have went top 20, top 30. That's nice. Burn for You. That's one of the strongest tracks off The Swing. I just want to hear more of that. I want to hear more deeper cuts. But my playlist would be probably a little bit too much of the deep cuts. I'd be putting stuff off, the early albums a little bit too much. So
yeah, and that was the
I
thing
think,
because the first international release was Shabu Shubah here. So we wouldn't have heard those back in the day unless we were really junkies into the band or later on or bought them as imports. Yeah, because that would have been the third worldwide release after those first two. By the
yeah,
time they hit the fourth album, I see they were already going 6 times platinum in Australia too. So like you were mentioning before, by the time Kick came out, some people were getting INXS overload. But
yeah,
I think it's because they broke so heavy there early.
yeah, absolutely. Well, they were really canny as to how they broke America, and the way to conquer America is you got to relocate. They may not have owned houses or lived there, but they certainly camped there for a long time. They played the college circuit and then just built up word of mouth and got on some really good tours and just toured. That's the only way. You can't. That's why a lot of Australian bands have tried to go over to America and have not succeeded. They've tried to do a showcase gig and play a little bit here and a little bit there. The truly successful Australian artists like LRB, AC/DC have just toured. They've tread the boards. They've done their apprenticeship in the pubs of Australia, and then moved across. And then, I mean, when I say moved, but travelled across, and then just camped themselves in whether it's in America or UK, and just toured, get in everyone's face. And they were a very hard-working band and very successful, and that's how they conquered America for a moment in time.
They did an MTV, I thought really helped them out, particularly when Listen Like Thieves came out. You couldn't avoid What You Need, that video back in 80.
Well, it helps that you've got a very good-looking bloke who's
Absolutely.
the lead singer. He doesn't look like Lemmy, but
No.
he's he that video just basically, you know, it helps if you've got a pin up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a story, John, that Rolling Stone wanted to have him on the cover, and he said no, I want the band. He could have easily gone down that route and just sort of, I'm the star, but no, it was a collective. But the focus was on him.
It wasn't. Speaking of memorable videos, well, another big video here was Need You Tonight, Intermediate, which that was the only, I believe it was the only number one hit here in the States. But then when they go into the Mediate part, they have it's reminiscent of the Bob Dylan video for Subterranean Homesick Blues, where you have those cards with one word of the lyric on each one, and they do the same thing there at the end, and then they go through them all, and then Kirk comes into the picture with the wonderful sax solo there at the end. It's a very memorable video, very popular here.
Absolutely. I think the videos, I like Devil Inside, where they're at this bohemian party. That's a good one. New Sensation. And who can forget the great video for Never Tear Us Apart, where they're going, I think, around the back streets of Venice. I just say that song and I get a shiver up my spine. I was playing that in the car going to work, and I had a shiver up my spine all the way through. it was a song that came out at the in the day, John, that I listened to it. I thought, oh, it's nice, but over time, I've grown to love it. It is like a fine red wine. That song gets better and better. I think it have to be their best song, or right up there. It's
I
just such a
agree.
beautiful song, and it's outside the box, isn't it? Because a lot of people think associate them at they do these little tricky R&B sort of dancey rock songs, but this one is just, it's a little bit of an outrider, and it's so emotional. And I think a lot of people in Australia associate that song with the funeral when he passed away, and which was devastating. And it was like on free to air TV over here. It was just so tragic and so unexpected. And yeah, that music was all over the funeral and the times of when that happened. And I think they had a poll of the greatest Australian songs of all time on a radio station here called Triple J, and that was voted as the number one Australian song of all time, which
Yeah.
was a little bit surprising because I thought there might have been some others, but it has risen in public consciousness to be voted as the greatest Australian song of all time.
It was awesome. Very good. So, Peter, how would you rank live at Wembley Stadium on a scale of 1 to 10? We can go CD or the DVD Blu-ray, either whichever one you'd wish, or both.
Yeah, look, it's going to sound a bit harsh. If it was DVD, I'd give it about a 7 or 7.5.
Okay.
I think the visuals, you get caught up in the excitement. And when you're looking at a show like that, it's the visual side that excites you. You see the band performing, you see the swagger of Hutchins, and you see the crowd, this massive wall of people just jumping up and down. So that really adds to it. But as a listening experience, just on the album, probably a 6.
Me,
Sounds a bit harsh. Sorry.
I'd go with 6.5, just because there are so many great songs on here. But I think the thing is, I think the so many songs being in so many different cities takes away the continuity of a live show. They don't really do, sometimes the songs are a little too fast. And when you comes to this album, we're missing Devil Inside, which was a number 2 hit in the States. We're missing Don't Change, which is endured as one of the great new wave songs, period. We're missing Listen Like Thieves, which is a fantastic track. We're missing Disappear, which was a top 10 hit here in the States. And we're missing Original Sin. So my thing is, I would have took out Shining Star and added a few of these tracks. I like the deep cuts on here. I do like Hear That Sound. I do like Burn for You, One by One. But I listen to this album. I like it, but I'm always going to go back to the studio tracks. I When I listen to this, I'm hearing like missed opportunities.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I think another thing I wanted to say why I gave it a 6 is a lot of the playing, I won't say the word mechanical, but it just seems like it is very structured.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have liked to seen a little bit more spontaneity, a bit more improvisational um, sort of avenues that they could have pursued. And I've heard a lot of their earlier stuff. I've got bootlegs. I've got live albums. I think there was a live album that was released off the Us tour. You remember 1983, Us
Yes,
in
yes.
California?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a live album of that floating around, which they're full of energy, spiky, post-punk, new wave. It's. I wanted to. They sound intimate, but they're playing to a big audience. This one sounds big, and they're playing to a big audience.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it kind of loses a little bit.
Totally understand what you mean. So today we are talking about INXS, Live Baby Live or Live Baby Live, and INXS Live at Wembley Stadium. thank you so much for joining us. What do you think of INXS's music, and particularly this album? What are your favorite songs on here? Do you think there was missed opportunities as far as the recording, some of the song selections? Do you think it's better to see NXS than listen to NXS in this kind of forum? What are your favorite songs by NXS throughout their career? Please let us know in the comments. Peter, thank you so much for joining me today and
Pleasure.
talking about this live album that maybe we're not so high on, but a lot of you may be. Live Baby Live, Live Baby Live, Live Baby Live, whatever you want to call it.
Live live, live, live.
There you go. So, Peter, you got a ton of stuff going on your channel. And as a fan of your channel, I mean, you're like hitting home runs left and right here. Tell us.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you got it.
Thank you very much. Oh, look, just check it out. Check the channel. Lots of stuff happening. Just did an interview with Alan Niven, which dropped last week. Um, he is such an interesting cat. The ex-manager of Guns N' Roses, and he's in a little bit of legal warfare with the band. He wants to get a book out to talk about his life as a road manager, as the manager of Guns N' Roses, but can't get the book out, and just an interesting raconteur. Also did an interview with Rat Scabies of the Dam. That was like a dream interview. I'm a huge fan, so I was absolutely, how can I say it? I was in awe. I'm very nervous, but I got through it, and he was just, I could hear him all day. Just that wonderful, again, tales from the pub type of raconteuring of Rat Scabies of the Dam, and they're doing their final tour. But is it the final tour? You'll have
Right.
to watch the show and find out. Plenty of other shows. Just check it out.
Absolutely. Peter always has something interesting going on this channel. Highly recommend it. And I'd say it even if I wasn't on there. So thank you all so much for watching us today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. The best.
You got it.